Well, welcome back, everybody. This is the Good Mom Podcast, and I'm Lindsay, and I'm here with my friend Sunny. Hello.
Hi.
And today I thought it would be kind of fun to talk about how to deal with your children's disappointment. You know, it has been a really big thing in my household, and I was the enabler for sure when my kids were little. When they would get disappointed about something, I would try to fix it. And rather than letting them feel their feelings and just get through it, they were often, I think they might have even gotten the message somehow from me that I didn't ever want them to feel disappointed. Right?
Yeah.
But disappointment is so important in life. It's such an important feeling to understand and work through so that when it happens again, you're much more resilient, right? Okay. So story goes, what happens when your kid is so excited about something? I don't care if it's asking a girl out on a date or going to some event, and it all falls flat. And that child is just a mess. And sometimes they're a mess for days. Sometimes they're a mess for weeks because whatever it was
months.
so important to them, right? So I think we might want to talk a little bit about, well, first of all, Sunny, have you experienced this with your own kids and how did you deal with it? And then I also think we should talk a little bit about what are some things that parents can do to help their kids who experience disappointment. So why don't you talk about what works for you, and then I'll share some of my more detailed stories too.
Yeah, this is so timely for me, Lindsay, because this is going on in our house right now. So the quick backstory is this. My oldest son, Sayer, who is 15 years old, he had a little accident on his e-bike. This is like maybe a month ago, I will say, something like that. And thank goodness he didn't fall off and run into a car or something horrible like that, because he was coming home. He had football practice after school. And it was at the time where it was starting to get dark, so he couldn't see that well. Anyway, he ended up kind of crashing his bike a little bit, and we didn't think it was that big of a deal. He had scrapes, and, we had to take care of that. I had to play mommy and bandage him up and do all that kind of stuff. Put Humpty Dumpty back together again, pretty much. But I noticed his knee started to hurt him, okay? And so we're kind of monitoring that. And he, at the time, was still in his football season. Football's now over, but he was still doing football at the time. And we didn't think they were going to have him play, but he ended up playing in the game. I think the bike crash was on a Tuesday and his football game was on a Friday, okay? So he ended up playing. I didn't go to the game, but my husband told me that they had to carry him off because he did something and further injured the knee. Okay, so it started with the e-bike, and then it was, the football injury.
Yeah.
So this led us down, seeing a doctor, having multiple tests done. Fast forward, I still don't have all the information yet. We've got an appointment coming up in a couple weeks that should give me more information. Yeah. But they did an MRI on him. Long story short, he could not play his last game of football. He is going to probably need surgery because he tore his ACL and some other 3-letter things that I have no idea what it is, but it's in his knee.
Okay.
It's a common sports injury. If anyone knows anything about this, it's common. Yeah. But the surgery, it's not just microscopic. I think that's part of it. But if he ends up needing the surgery, which this is what most people end up doing, big gash, big scar, whatever, on his leg, on his knee. And it's like a year-long recuperation. And in high school, that's forever.
That is forever.
A year is forever in high school.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And so my son, when he got this news, was so disappointed. Not only did he miss the biggest game of the season, which was the last game of the season, it's a rivalry.
Yeah.
He missed that. He also found out the varsity team was going to play in playoffs, and he's on JV, but they usually pull up some of the JV players to play for the, those games at the end of the season. And he would have been pulled up for that, we found out, but he's injured. And now we don't really know, like I said, until we have this one appointment. So I already started to see him get depressed about this.
For sure.
And I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, like he's normally just a really nice, I would say joyful, kid. And all of a sudden his whole world started to crash in, literally because of the bike. His whole world started to crash in on him. And so what did I do? I mean, we're still in the midst of all of this, but my gut reaction was to distract.
Yeah.
Was to be like, what? I can't necessarily help him in this. I mean, I'm meditating, I'm praying, I'm doing all this, being, please, hopefully I could just make this go away somehow, right?
Yeah.
But besides that, we thought, what can we do to take his mind off of this? And so what we are in the process of doing is he used to share, currently does, I guess, share a bedroom with his brother, but we have a guest bedroom downstairs. So we are in the process of changing the guest bedroom and making it his bedroom. So he has his own space, and he's I could see in his eyes, like he was getting really excited about that. He's watching YouTube videos and, so that little spark came back. Yeah. So anyway, that was my at least gut reaction right now. This, this is just the beginning of, I don't know what's going to happen from here on out, but my gut reaction was to distract from the situation.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a very good instinct, really, because, it's just allowing him to think about other things is very good. The process of disappointment is just grief. So he is grieving his next year, his loss of football, his loss of whatever it was that he was looking forward to. And the best thing that you can do, or anyone, is to encourage him to talk about his feelings. And he will complain about that, because a lot of, especially young men, kids, they're like, I don't want to talk about it, and that's fine. It's legit. But if you can kind of explain that, having him talk it through and share what he's actually feeling and get it out, like there's the stages of grief, right? So he's probably going through the disappointment phase right now, the denial, the wait, this isn't happening. And if I'm distracted, I won't have to think about it. But then he's going to go through the anger. And there will come a time where he's just mad. And who knows how he will be mad? Will he be mad at himself for crashing the bike and playing football anyway? Will he, how, you don't know. But these are those places where, in the process of working through grief, if parents can learn how to communicate and listen to the kid's perspective on it, sometimes they can feel the feeling all the way through. Because here's the thing. It doesn't need to change anything about his life. He's the one who mentally gets to decide that. He's going to decide now. Does this change your life or doesn't it? He's still the same kid. He still knows all the same people. He may not be playing a game or two, but everything else about his life has fundamentally not been changed. And so if his identity is wrapped around being a football player, the grief is going to be bigger by a long shot. Right? And so whatever you can do to encourage him to talk it through. And if he won't talk it through with you, maybe your husband, maybe a really good friend. But the idea is to show him the cycle of grief and say, this is what you're going to go through. It's already laid out. Hundreds of studies have been done. The trick is for you, Sawyer, to really understand what's going on for you and to clear out that emotion. If you held on to it, it won't be good over the long haul.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So
I think that's really good, Lindsay. I know in the beginning I was just kind of like, oh, let's distract. But you're right. At some point and sometime soon, we need to kind of process these feelings, because they will just fester. And we all need to let that kind of stuff out. It doesn't matter how old you are, what gender you are, none of that. Is really, it really matters. We're all human, and we all, process these things in different ways. But, and also from my perspective, and I know my son's not thinking this yet, but I'm thinking there are going to be things that happen over the next year. Let's assume he has the surgery over the next year that he probably wouldn't have had a chance to do if he hadn't been injured, right? So I'm also trying to see the other side of this and be like, if you just open yourself up to the possibility that other amazing things could happen, that right now seems like a real big bummer that you can't do what you think you want to do, right? But something better could happen and you can't even fathom it now.
You won't even guess. I mean, remember this the age-old saying, how do you make God laugh? Tell him your plans. Well,
make plans.
So Sawyer had some plans, and those plans are being shifted so that he can practice resilience, practice not making the meaning out of something as simple as this one thing in life. There will be many other things in life that will disappoint him. And when he can learn how to address his own feelings and manage the disappointment at this age and stage, look out, leadership, because that's what builds amazing leaders, right? So as parents, it sucks. It just sucks to see your kid hurt. It sucks to have them not get what they want in their life. It sucks when they're let down on some level. And at the same time, the more you can help them talk it through, whatever it is, the better off they're going to be to learn resilience for themselves. Don't talk it through like, yeah, whatever, don't make a big deal out of it. No, it's like, gosh, if I was in your shoes, I might feel really angry right now. Do you feel angry? Or gosh, if I was in your shoes, I'd feel really sad right now. Do you feel sad? Whatever, let them get it out. Share what it is. That's the thing that will help with disappointment for any kid and quite frankly for any adult. So, yeah. It's hard. It's hard though. And for you as a mom, how are you dealing with your own disappointment for your son? Like, you're disappointed that he's disappointed. It's like, I hate that part.
Well, I think that's why I tried to pivot pretty quickly, because I didn't want to see him, because I've kind of heard horror stories. Even there was another lady in my neighborhood over Halloween. I was talking to this other mom, and her son or daughter, maybe it was both, had a similar injury and went through kind of the same surgery that we're probably looking at. Okay. And this is just a word to the wise out there. Don't tell horror stories to other parents that are about to go through something. She was trying to help. I know she was trying to help. But the stuff she was saying was scaring the crap out of me. Things like, oh, well, he's going to be, he's not going to be able to take care of himself for at least a year. And he's going to be on all these opioids. And I'm like, I just, I see a million things wrong with everything that's coming out of her mouth right now.
That's really not helpful, but thank you. Yeah.
Not helpful. But she did help in some other weird ways, but still, I'm obviously hoping he doesn't need the surgery, and that maybe there's other lessons that can come out of this, like literally every day. I'm like holding the light, I'm meditating, I'm like sending healing energy to my son.
Yes, for sure.
But this just may be part of his path. I know I've thought of that too. It's like, Sunny, no matter how much you want to wish this away or pray this away or whatever, this may just be something that he really needs to learn. I keep thinking, I keep dwelling on the negative. Like, he's 15 years old. I don't know. I know surgery will help with his current situation, but I don't know that he'll ever come back to where he, the strength of his knee will ever come back, and I'm thinking, oh, what about long term? What about all this kind of stuff? But then I always go back to, well, this might just be his journey for whatever reason, and we don't know everything, obviously, when we go through it. But, there's other things I can point to in my life that were very, very difficult that I went through. And at the time, I wish I wasn't going through it. And now I look back and go, that was probably the best thing that could have happened to me.
There you go.
You know?
See, there you go. And these are defining moments.